gosh, last night I went down the Veritasium electricity rabbit hole. And I just want to say, I'm so stupid. Oh my god. You don't understand how dumb I was. I had to have the equations for electricity open because I couldn't remember what voltage was. The guy was explaining electricity and I was like, what is voltage? And then I had to Google that. And then he's still going and I was like, wait, what is, like, I know what resistance is now, but I don't know, I still can't remember what any of the other meanings are. Like, I literally, when I put my brain on it, I'm like, okay, voltage is this? What is this? Which one is power? And then energy is what? And then what is this? Which one's measured in what? Like, I'm so confused. Here's what was happening. I had ChatGPT open on one monitor. I had Veritasium open on the other monitor. Then I had the equations open on the third monitor. The thing is, I'm not an electrical engineer. In physics, you learn electricity and then it's like 1 unit of your year and then you just move on, right? So you learn electricity and then you move on to like vectors or optics or something like that. So you get like, I don't know, 2 months on electricity. And then they teach you all the math and you learn how to calculate it. But I was like, I put on the video, I was Googling photons and then I was like, I don't understand photons. And so I was looking into electrons because photons are products of electrons moving around a neutron. And so I was like, okay, now I need to understand electrons. So I was watching the Veritasium video. I did not understand what is power? I just kept asking ChatGPT for different explanations of what power is. I was like, ChatGPT, what is power? And then it was like, power is this equation. And I was like, no, ChatGPT, I don't want the equation of the power. I want an explanation of what the power is. Like, is the power the electrons passing the charge from electron to electron? Or is power the electron interacting with the chemical at the end of it? I think it's actually the electron interacting with the chemical at the end of it. Because at the level of like scale that the power is happening at, electricity is actually just the electron interacting with the next element in line, making it do thing. The work that's being done is a chemical reaction at the end of the line, and whatever electron stuff is happening in the coil or what cable or whatever is not anything. It literally doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. The only thing that matters is at the end what's touching what. You know? So I was like, what the fuck is energy then? What is electricity? I was so confused for a long time. I was literally, like, I couldn't grasp it. I literally couldn't grasp it. Yeah, at the atomic level, what is electricity? So I was like thinking, like, I had an analog example, which made sense to me. The analog example made sense to me. But then I was getting into digital, and then I learned that apparently graphics cards are just factorial quality mods, pretty much. So the analog explanation that I received from ChatGPT was that the electrons were being, like, the electrons are moving through the filament, which is made of tungsten, which is a high resistance. So there's a lot of heat being generated because a lot of energy needs to be put in to the fucking electrons moving so they can generate heat and light there. But the chemical reaction of the tungsten reacting to the electron is the work that's actually happening. The electricity that's quote unquote moving from the outlet to the fucking filament is not actually what's going on. It's just happening all the time anyway. And the work is in the fucking filament. Right? That makes sense, correct? That makes sense, correct? So here's where I got really confused. Fucking retarded, okay? I just don't remember how electricity works. And then I was like, okay, so how does it work in a digital way? And then I started to fucking lose my mind. Because, okay, apparently in like a watch, I didn't know this. Apparently in a watch, the way that it works is the electrons are passing through a piece of quartz literally so small that the quartz is vibrating at the most consistent rate possible, and that's what's generating, like, that's what's making the gears move. I did not know that, actually. I didn't know that. So if you compare a light bulb to a watch, to an analog watch with a piece of quartz in it, it's just the electrons moving through that's causing it to vibrate, because the electrons passing through is transferring whatever energy, and that's how the quartz reacts. But the tungsten reacts by giving off heat and light and stuff, right? So I don't give a shit about actual clocks, okay? I don't fucking care. But the quartz and the tungsten react so fucking differently that I wasn't grasping how both of them were like electricity. Because I was like, I don't fucking understand how both things are electricity. But yeah, at an atomic level, it is chemical reactions, right? Because one is tungsten, one is quartz, which is silica, and then like for no? What do you mean no? What do you mean no? It's based on the element. What? It's not chemical reactions? It is. But it's a physical reaction to silica. It's not a physical reaction to tungsten. It's not a physical reaction to like carbon. It's physical reactions to fucking silica. It is a specific thing. Chemistry is physics. And then the issue became that literally all the words became meaningless. Every single word that I was looking up was so confusing because I was like, so the element is reacting, but what do you call that? You can't call that like a chemical reaction, even though it is, right? So you can say like the silica is reacting to the electron moving through. That's chemical. That's a chemical reaction, even though it's not like, the word doesn't apply to that in a general sense, but it is a chemical reaction because it's a chemical that's moving. When you get a chemical reaction in a light bulb, it burns out, but that's what it is, right? Anyway, so this all happened because I wanted to understand photons. So I was looking at light vectors, and then I got stuck in the Veritasium video, and I had to watch it over and over. I would watch 10 seconds and then go back, and then I would watch 10 seconds and then go back, and then I'd watch another 10 seconds. By the second half of the video, it did make sense, right? It did make sense. By the second half, I was like, okay, I think I understand. And then I did the electro boom, and then I went back to the other, so Veritasium made a video, and then I watched the Electro Boom, and then I watched the Veritasium response video, and then I watched 2 separate Electro Boom videos responding with calls to Derek of Veritasium. Anyway, the bottom line is, I'm so stupid. I was wondering how like microchips were being made because the scale of it is just impossible, right? If they're being made at a scale to pass like specific number of electrons through thing, did you know they're made with they're just made with chemical reactions? That means they have to specifically trigger like the chemical reaction to produce a specific shape of thing? That's so crazy. And then like a 4090 is like a 4070 is just a failed 4080. It's just a failed 4090. It's like they always want to produce 4090s, but some of their chemical reactions fail, so they just call it a 4080. I didn't fucking know that. That's like a thing. That's how chips work. I was like, what? That's how CPUs work too? I was like, what? So that's just how it is? It's just like, some of them parts don't work that well? That's it? Silicon gamble is real? Yeah, I was having a really bad time. I feel like this is obvious because I'm dumb. Your dedication to understanding with your limited horsepower is admirable. I know. I was just literally there, like, trying to look up. Like, it's just Y's all the way down, right? You ask, why does this work like this? Why does this work like this? Then you go to the next level and you're like, why does that happen? What is power? What is this? Why does this work? Why does this work? And then at the very bottom, I don't even understand, like, the words anymore. Like, the words are just confusing, but I'm at the very bottom of it and I'm like, why does this exist? And then, like at the very bottom of it, I was trying to re-understand the Bohr model for atoms. Because I was like, are atoms actually orbiting around a neutron? Or do they just exist? Like, because you know that pudding model? Everyone remember the pudding model? Like with the raisins? Do you remember the pudding model with the raisins? I was like, oh God. Everything I ever knew is maybe wrong and not real. I don't understand. You don't remember the pudding model? The way that they try to teach kids about electrons is they call it like a pudding. It's the Thomson pudding or something. The Thomson model is the plum pudding model. It's just like in a cookie, there are a bunch of raisins. They just exist. It looks like a cookie. It's called the plum pudding. If you Google it, it's the plum pudding model. I was going back to the plum pudding model and I was like, is this right? I definitely did not learn it this way. Well, I learned the Bohr model too, but they tried to explain the pudding model at first. This is the plum pudding model. I remember this from school. So it's obviously not this because the electrons orbit something else, right? A heavier thing. And then I was thinking about space because At human scale, gravity makes sense. But at an atomic scale, nothing makes sense. So I can't even assume that an electron orbits like a neutron because like I don't understand, because at that level does gravity even exist anymore? Probably not! I was having a really bad time. I was having a really, like it was a long night. I was up until 1. A proton. It orbits a proton. Wait, no it doesn't. It orbits a neutron, but the protons are also there. Why do the neutrons and the protons hang out together? Why are neutrons and protons held together? 1 second, I just need to Google everything again. They overcome the electrostatic repulsion between protons. What? Because God made it so? That is so unhelpful! See? So yeah, I was just in this rabbit hole of not understanding anything. I just love it. And then it got really religious. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. At the very bottom of it, I was like, man, I guess God made it so. I guess God made the rules. And we are just making... And then the funny thing brought up by the Veritasium Electroboom discourse was that both of them had different understanding of different visual models of electrons. So they were coming up with different answers. But once you apply a different visual model to your own understanding of electrons, it changes your whole understanding, right? So like part of the discourse was, I'm pretty sure Veritasium showed Electroboom a different model. And then the Electroboom guy was like, oh, okay. Based on this model, I do understand. Veritasium was plain wrong. I don't know enough about the discourse to actually give you any information. I was just trying to understand what photons were. So please don't try and explain why he was right or why he was wrong. Don't try and explain that. I don't understand. I was only trying to understand photons, okay? All I wanted to know was about photons. But yeah, so I was just at that point I was like, is this model even correct? Is this model even correct? So the thing for photons, and I guess also electrons, is we shouldn't even understand them as particles because they might not be particles. If you photographed yourself in your house 10 billion times, you would be a snake shape. So then, if like a scientist a billion times bigger than you photographed you at every single stage of where you were in your house and you turned into a snake, they would point at you and go, that's a snake. You are a snake. This chatter is a snake shape. And the higher density images of where you stay for a long time, like if you're in your bed a lot, or if you're like in your kitchen a lot, those are darker. So I don't know what those dark spots are on the snake shape, but this is a snake with 2 darker dots, you know? So like, at that level, I was like, I don't even know if an electron is a particle because maybe they just photographed something like going around. Because you also can't use an electron microscope on an electron because you're only shooting an electron at an electron and then it's just colliding with wherever the electron is. So like you're only confirming that the electron exists here. You don't know what it actually looks like because you're just not small enough to see. And so I was like, yeah, I give up. This is stupid. This is dumb! With like reduced brain capacity. So I had to understand everything as like baby concepts, you know? I was literally baby concepting my way through electricity. The way I had to understand like wafer stuff was that here's how I took the GPU thing. When I got the GPU thing, I was like, oh, each chip on the GPU is a piece of popcorn and they want the perfect popcorn shape every time. But if they don't get the perfect popcorn shape, it's a 4080. That's otherwise I was like, that's how I understood it. Why popcorn? Because you can't perfectly control a chemical reaction and form a specific shape. I mean that works. Yeah. It was a really good analogy actually. In my head I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh yes, this really works. Yes. Why are you jumping from time relativity to GPUs? Well, this was previously, but that was my applied understanding of chemical reaction. I was like, popcorn. So anyway, I learned that the world is very confusing and I never understood electricity at all. And I'm very stupid. I kind of understood it, I guess. I kind of understood it in the way that here's what my takeaway was, and you can feel free to argue with me if you think I'm wrong. because electrons already exist in a coil, in a cable. Like if you take a segment of cable, let me just say my interpretation. If you think it's wrong, then fine, you can tell me. But so in a cable, like just a segment, there's electrons in it, right? So here, I'll draw a picture. I'll draw a picture of what I understood. I am summarizing my research. Let me summarize my research really quick. Okay, in this, AC or DC, I don't think it matters. Let's assume DC, I guess. Let's assume DC. Okay, if here's the, let's draw this in black. Okay, so here's a length of cable, and then here's the neutron proton stuff. Okay, for this, what's happening? This is too long and I have to draw too many pluses. This is pretty much what they drew in the video too, so I'm not even doing anything different. So it's like all of the little electrons, they don't actually, I mean, I do understand that electrons can transfer, right? Electrons can transfer from things to, from molecules to another. They can transfer, right? When do they transfer? What causes an electron transfer? They jump? I don't think they're jumping. Because doesn't that imply an actual chemical reaction? It's just energy state? I don't know. They do jump. They hop from one atom's electron shell to another. And then what? Do they go back? Where do they go? Do they go back? How can they... do they come back to them? Then what if the next one is too positive then? They're always in motion? Electrons are always in motion. I guess in the understanding, it was like if the wave is going this way, then all of the electrons are getting pulled this way. But then like some of them might jump to the next one. Like let's say if this one was blue here, and this one was blue here, this one jumps to this one, and then this one jumps to this one, and then they hit the proton. Does that make sense? If it's too positive, then more electrons should be attracted, right? Yeah, so if the wave is moving this way, whatever, then this electron is hitting this proton, and that's what's causing stuff to happen. They don't collide with protons? Are you sure? Why aren't they colliding with protons? Are you wondering how energy travels? Yeah, because at the very base level of it, I still don't understand what energy is. Because how can there be, like on the other side of a circuit? On the other side of a circuit, like if this is the negative side of a circuit, and then this is the positive side, how can there be a positive side at all? Does that make sense? How can there be a positive side at all? Because aren't there always electrons here? There's literally always electrons everywhere. There's just less electrons here because they got pulled to here, right? Your circuit is always closed. You're so fucking annoying. There. Fuck you. Happy? Are you fucking happy? Now it's open. Now it's open. Wait, I can't make it. There you go. Okay. Does this make... But then, so like what's happening is the wave is moving this way. So then the wave is pulling all of the little negatives into here. And then what? It's just closing it. So then this, if you just close this top part, is net positive because all the electrons got stolen away. And then all of the extra electrons just populate this side of the coil. So then there's like, I don't know, 200% more electrons on the bottom side. And then when you actually close the circuit, you know, they like go back. Is that what it is? No? What do you mean? How can the electrons not exist? No? Explain it. Explain it. She's breaking laws of physics. How am I breaking laws of physics? How can one side of a circuit be net positive when electrons should still exist there? It's just that there's less of them. Oh God, I made it black. Oh God. Oh, I see. I fixed. Start with metallic bonds in chemistry. It'll make circuits easier to understand. You're skipping an important step. No! I don't want to! lazy. My brain was active last night, now I'm tired. I'm tired now. Oh my god, this all started? Oh, I remember now. I was looking at photons, and then this got me into the visible like I was jumping all over the place. You gotta remember, like I can't not tangent, because you know, like if you ask a question, there's a bunch of why questions off of it. The first question was, what is a photon? How did it become like an image? So then I was looking at photons. Photons are just like visible spectrum of light. Well, they're just all light, but then including the visible spectrum of light. So then I was looking at radio waves, and I didn't even know what AM and FM were. Did you know that AM radio waves are better at night because the F layer of the ionosphere is not active? And because they're bouncing off the D layer? And I was trying to figure out why, and I was like, is that just a straight up vector thing? Like it's bouncing off a larger circle, so it's going further and not a smaller circle? Because the D layer is smaller than the the F layer is smaller than the D layer, or whatever the fuck, so it's bouncing off a bigger circle versus a smaller circle. I was literally so confused, and then I was like, oh my god, the fucking visible spectrum of light is so shit, and then I was going into energy. That's how it was. It was this stupid fucking rabbit hole. It was 3